Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us for the Medical Board of California's quarterly board meeting, day 2. While this meeting is being conducted with participating board members and staff from the Nickerson Auditorium at the St. Agnes Medical Center in Fresno, California, this meeting is being streamed interactively using WebEx to allow for remote public comment in the same manner as recent meetings. Public comments for those who wish to speak will be heard for each agenda item from individuals attending in person and remotely. To be ready for remote public comment, we ask that you please ensure your comments can be heard clearly by being connected to the audio of this meeting through the proper method. If you're having difficulty hearing the audio of this meeting, it could be because the device you're connecting with has bandwidth limitations. If you do have difficulty hearing the audio of this meeting using your device, please click the ellipsis button at the bottom of the WebEx application or the audio and video menu item at the top of the WebEx application and then select Switch Audio. You'll see an option to call in and will be provided with a telephone number, access code, and attendee ID that can be used to connect to the meeting via phone. Once using the information provided, it will automatically disconnect your device's audio and connect your phone to the name you joined the meeting with. By using this method, if you are having audio problems with your device, this will allow you still to participate and hear the audio of the board meeting. Please view the additional meeting information link on the first page of the meeting agenda for more information on connecting to the meeting and accessing meeting materials. Thank you, President Lawson. You can now start the meeting.
Thank you, Sean. Good morning, board members and members of the public, and welcome back to the second day of the Medical Board of California's quarterly board meeting. I would like to ask all of us to turn our mobile devices to silent, and you may notice that board members are accessing their laptops, phones, or other devices during the meeting. They are using these devices to access board meeting materials that are in electronic format. If you are a member of the media and you require assistance or information, please see Aaron Bone, who's sitting right over here. This is an official business meeting of the Medical Board of California, and disruptions of the board's business will not be tolerated. Government Code Section 11126.5 allows the board to remove people who willfully interrupt a meeting and to clear a room if order cannot be restored by removing or muting the disruptive people. The board welcomes public comment on any item on the agenda, and it's the board's intent to ask for public comments prior to the board taking action on any agenda item. If for some reason I forget to ask for public comment on an agenda item and you wish to speak on that item, please just raise your hand or come forward and you will be recognized. As Sean mentioned, this meeting is also being streamed via WebEx. Individuals attending the meeting remotely via WebEx will have an opportunity to provide public comment and will be assisted by the host who will be facilitating the WebEx meeting. During each agenda item, the host moderating this WebEx event will activate the hand raising and Q&A features of WebEx and will ask anyone wishing to make a public comment to indicate so by raising their hand or entering yes in the Q&A window. The host will then call on individuals who indicated they wish to make public comments by the name provided by the individual, which may be a pseudonym. When called upon, the host will unmute the microphone of the individual and they will have 3 minutes to make their public comment, but this time period may be reduced depending on the number of people who wish to speak so that more people may be heard. The host will audibly announce when 30 seconds remain to conclude the public comment. After the individual's time for public comment has lapsed, the individual will be placed back on mute, and only one public comment per agenda item is allowed per attendee. I'd like to remind all speakers to please stay on topic and keep your comments to 3 minutes or less. Today's meeting will be run according to the Open Meeting Act as required by law. We do plan to end today by 3 p.m., although I do expect we will end sooner than that as well. So for members of the public who are interested in commenting or hearing a particular agenda item, please do stay with us this morning as I don't expect the meeting to go until 3 p.m. With that, I'd like to call the meeting to order at, I guess I just broke my microphone. I'd like to call the meeting to order at 9:04 a.m. Ms. Struther, please call the roll.
Dr. Ayala Rodriguez. Dr. Bola.
Here.
Ms. Chung.
Yes.
Dr. Helzer.
Here.
Ms. Mitchell.
Here.
Dr. Mahmood.
Yes.
Ms. Rimke.
Here.
Dr. Thorpe. Ms. Torres.
Present.
Dr. Tsai.
Here.
Mr. Watkins. Dr. Yip.
Here.
Ms. Lawson.
Here. Thank you. A quorum is present, and I would again like to remind members we will be taking a roll call vote on all action items. We're going to move on to agenda item 12, update on the board's 2023 to 2027 strategic plan. I think we have Letitia Robinson with us on the line.
Good morning, President and members. Please turn to page BRD-12-1 for an update on the board's strategic plan. I am pleased to provide you this report highlighting accomplishments the board has achieved thus far. The strategic plan is attached to this report. To provide a little background, the strategic plan was prepared in conjunction with the Department of Consumer Affairs Solid Planning Unit. Solid conducted an environmental scan that included surveys and interviews with board members, staff, and the public to develop goals and objectives. The board also revised its mission and vision statements and added board values. This strategic plan sets the board's priorities for 5 years. I will now go over some of the accomplishments. In licensing, staff has made many changes to streamline the licensing requirements and the verification process. Since requiring electronic physician and surgeon applications, applicants can now update an address or email and submit subsequent documents online. And physicians that previously held a license in California can now reapply online. Other application enhancements that have been made to reduce the time frame to obtain a license include no longer printing application documents received electronically, no longer requiring a diploma be submitted, and removing the notary section from all postgraduate training program forms. Enforcement staff is eager to implement the new complainant liaison unit created as part of the board's 2023 Sunset Bill. Last month, staff was hired and work has begun. This unit is responsible for responding to communications from the public about the complaint review and enforcement process, including after a complaint has been referred to a field office, assist with coordinating communications between the complainant and investigators as necessary. Following a disciplinary decision, respond to questions from the complainant regarding any appeals process available to the disciplined physician. Conduct and support public outreach activities to improve the public's understanding of the board's enforcement process, including related laws and policies. And evaluate and respond to requests from complainants to review a complaint closure that the complainant believes was made in error. Enforcement staff is also working to increase the number of medical expert reviewers and improve their effectiveness. The quarterly WebEx expert reviewer training platform has been transitioned to an online self-paced format. A fiscal year 2025-2026 budget change proposal has been submitted to increase expert reviewer pay in 3 critically short medical specialties. That is the orthopedic surgery, pain medicine, and neurological surgery. And a revised set of minimum requirements for expert reviewers have been drafted and is under review. In the goal area of legislation and regulation, the board's Sunset Bill brought significant changes, including the much sought-after complainant liaison unit, appropriate funding, and securing a 4-year sunset review period. Outreach is an important part of the board's mission to continually promote consumer protection through public awareness. Licensing staff conduct their own outreach to applicants and licensees' communities. The Public Affairs Unit in late 2024 filled a key vacancy that existed throughout most of that year, and currently is in the process of scheduling brainstorming, collaborative meetings with colleagues, is developing new engagement strategies, and expanding outreach settings. Lastly, board administration accomplishments include updating the board member administrative procedure manual regarding voting expectations on disciplinary actions and other needed changes. The board actively participates in the Department of Consumer Affairs Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee. This committee specifically focuses on promoting DEI initiatives within the department, working to create a workplace where everyone feels valued and has equal opportunities regardless of their background or identity. Meetings are held and attended quarterly. Hiring documents have been revised to use DEI language, making them gender neutral. And staff now have the option to add preferred pronouns to their email signatures. This concludes my report. Are there any questions?
Thank you, Ms. Robinson. Are there any questions or comments from the board members?
Great.
I'll make a brief comment. I think this work is really reflective of a great strategic plan. I think it was really highly participatory, and we brought in a lot of stakeholders, and it really is reflected. So thank you, and thank you for the presentation, Ms. Robinson.
You're
Thanks,
welcome.
Dr.
Thank you.
Any other comments, questions? Okay, seeing none, we'll open it up for public comment. Are there any public comments from those present in the hearing room? Seeing none, Sean, if you'd like to open it up on WebEx.
Yes, if you're on the WebEx and you'd like to make a public comment, you can use the hand raising feature. You can just type you'd like to make a public comment into the Q&A window. No need to type the entire question. Or if you're on a call-only line, you can press *3. First up here, we have a request from Angel Outreach. You should be receiving that prompt on your end.
Yes, hello. This is Angel Outreach, previously Black Lives Matter, and I commend the medical board in accomplishing this task. It sounds like we're headed in the right direction, continuing to provide equity across all patient populations, representatives, physicians, regardless of race, ethnicity. We would just like to speak up for those who do have religious beliefs in that in the field of medicine and health, it's important that we respect people's spiritualities. And so whether we are Muslim, non-Muslim, atheist, or whatever the religion may be, it would be important that we utilize experts, medical experts especially, who have training in diversity as evidenced on their resume. I know that it's challenged to obtain medical experts in the field of orthopedics, for example, that sort of thing. But truly, we cannot lower our standards of, having this type of sunset review, but then expecting to have medical experts who have no experience in diversity as evidenced on their resume, especially in the field of psychiatry. Thank you.
Thank you for your public comment. At this time, I'm not seeing any additional requests.
All right, we will bring it back to the board. Any comments, questions? All right, seeing none, I think we'll move on to agenda item 13, which is discussion and possible action on board members' legislative proposals. I believe that we received one legislative proposal for the board's consideration. And would that member like to speak about the proposal?
Just give me a minute for my notes. Well, first I want to say thank you to the board for allowing me to present this, because it's been a struggle just to get to this point. But I don't know if anybody got a chance to read what I asked. And so I'm going to start there. Since we know why we are here, I just want to ask the question, can we agree that 3 years to wait to see anything about a doctor that is being investigated is too long? It's just too long. Can we agree that we've all seen that in that 3 years, other patients' lives are being harmed or affected in a negative way? I think those are important things to agree upon when I present this. because the reality is for the patient population and health consumers that they time and time again go to the search function on the medical board site, check out the doctor, everything is fine, and only when they are in trouble do they find out, wow, this doctor has been investigated or under investigation for 3 years. And I want to be clear that a vast majority of doctors are all safe. But within the population, and it's funny because I learned this a while back, there's called the criminal career paradigm. And it is called like 5 to 10% of any population or any group of individuals, they commit 50 to 70% of most of the offenses. And so what I am moving towards in preserving the integrity of the profession is to give notice to the public. And I think an appropriate place would be when the case reaches the Health Quality Investigation Unit, it has moved through most of the process. And now the board has established that it's actually a more serious case. And that could possibly take 6 months, but not 3 years. And at that time, when we moved the case to HQIU, we prompt that now a notice is placed on the doctor's profile on the medical board site. And it's just to inform the public. It's just to give them the opportunity to see that they can still go to their doctor, but here's correct, accurate, and timely information. Right now, it's not accurate, and it's not timely, and it's putting people's lives at risk. And a backstory from me, why I do what I do. I come from a communitarian culture. And in that communitarian culture, we do this. We grew up poor. We grew up in apartheid South Africa. So the only person I could rely on was my neighbor on my right and my neighbor on my left. If things got tough, I could rely on them. If I didn't have, they would give it to me. They will raise my hand when something dangerous is showing up. I live from that principle. And the principle, what I'm asking today, is that we are a community. We are tasked with regulating this industry as per our mission. And right now, there's a gap that exists that puts the patients at risk. We're not raising our hands and saying, hey, potential danger here, be aware. That's all I'm saying. There'll be a disclaimer. But all I'm saying is be aware. Approach with caution. That's what this is doing. This is not to dismiss it. This is just to identify early, not prosecute or persecute any bad actors. We're not even saying it's a bad actor. We're just saying there's enough information to give us pause this moment. And this will save lives. This will save people from being harmed. Yesterday I heard from the dais here when we spoke about the PHP that people talk about what I heard words like, let's catch it early. Prevention is the key. These are all the same elements that is present in this proposal. These are all the same elements. Prevention is key. Catch it early. Raise our hand. Protect the public. And I'm humbly asking all of my board members to genuinely consider this. Don't consider me the messenger. I'm a bad messenger. But more like an earnest cry from the patient community. I'm just a voice from the patient community that perhaps, this is something that we can move forward to protect them. That's all I'm asking. Just help me, help them save some lives. And that's my only request today from the board, to pass this and move it to a legislative pack so that we can move this into law. I know it's a big ask. I know it's going to be difficult. But I have to ask. I genuinely have to ask.
Thank you, Mr. Watkins. Are there any other proposals from board members?
Can we just discuss this or just?
Yeah, we will in a minute, but I need to check and see if anybody else has any proposals. Okay, it looks like there are no other proposals. I do think we need to consider the context in which this is agendized. So this is discussion and possible action on legislative proposals. So there are only and we can have Carrie help us too about this sort of suite of options that we have today. I mean, one of which would it be to ask staff to do some more research on, Mr. Watkins didn't mention the specific statute, but in his written proposal, there's a specific statute that he suggested was a good one for us to consider as a model. We could ask our staff to go research that further. I suppose we could table this conversation entirely, and there are probably some other options about legislative proposals, but or things we could provide direction to staff to. But I'd like us to keep the discussion in that context in which we agendized it. So, Dr. Mahmood, I'm happy to go to you first.
Yeah, thank you so much. I just need a little clarification. TJ, you mean that the moment complaint coming in, we should post that complaint?
I wrote that, but I overnight, I thought, that's too big a ask. That's not fair.
That's not bigger ask. That is a very unrealistic and illogical ask.
Yes, and
People will be really taking revenge from people.
yes,
Anybody can pick up the phone anonymous, make a call and make a complaint about a physician. And when there is a complaint about a physician, no matter how much you say, you tell them he hasn't done anything wrong, we're just investigating, people will have rolling their eyes. There's something going on.
yes.
So I think that is not a big ask. That is, I think, very unrealistic ask. That's
And-
why I'm just jumping on this right away.
And I agree with you. And that's why I adjusted the ask. And actually, that's why I asked HQIU, how long does it take? How many cases come in? I want to be fair. This thing is about when you want fairness, be fair. I want just a fair opportunity.
That is very right. And I know that your intentions and your purpose is to help people and safe, but fair means fair with everybody, not just put some. Obviously, our jurisdiction is on the medical practitioners, and our most effect goes on them to protect public. But we do not just want to pass our limits. That's what I'm saying, that we should be very careful and cautious. And I appreciate you considering already on that. Thank you.
I have two commenters, Ms. Remke and then Dr. Helzer.
Yeah, just to that point, and you laid out the various options to us, I would think it would be very difficult to have this full conversation right now, and maybe this is the start of a conversation, because I'm not even clear what the ask is, number one. And then we would have to review what that ask means and what kind of numbers we're talking about. But number two, there's no background here as to what actually we do now. And I think everybody would want an understanding of that before we move forward on changing. So, I mean, to me, at the very least, this is just a concept without anything being fleshed out. That's what I would be concerned about right now on this issue.
Sure.
The backdrop to this, and that is my oversight. I just assume that everybody has been on the board long enough, but that is absolutely my oversight. Right now, what happens? A complaint is filed, and there is no information that is happening for around 3 years. When an accusation is filed, prepared and filed by the Attorney General's office, that's the first time that the public has noticed that there's anything wrong. Now, there's some cases that people have done the search function and then discover after the fact that, whoa, this doctor has been under investigation. So that's the backdrop. Thank you.
Oh,
Yeah, I appreciate Ms. Remke's point about we haven't had a staff analysis of this. We're not talking about things like what happens when there's an interim suspension order, because there are some situations that certainly are noticed, especially where we seek those, a stay of their license, a suspension order for a physician, that's noticed right away on a profile. But we do there would be a lot more information we need to gather from our staff to answer all the questions I think board members are
Yeah,
going to have. So
because-
that's why the first option is let's direct staff to go get some.
Because I
some
keep hearing
information.
the 3 years, and that doesn't seem consistent with the statistics I'm reviewing. So that's what causes me a little bit of concern. Like, I would want some real statistical information backing up where we're at, what the concern is, and what would the right direction would be. So again, I'll just leave it at that. Thanks.
Thanks, Ms. Remke. Dr. Helzer.
Thank you. Mr. Watkins, thank you for this proposal. I also have concerns about fairness. Specifically, is it appropriate for us to publish issues on our profile website without first vetting all of the complaints and making sure that they're substantiated before and that we're ready to proceed with an accusation before publishing them? I'm curious if we would actually publish any details about the investigation, and if we do not, would that be useful to the patients? Would that provide useful information that they could then act upon? I'm also concerned, or I'd like to know more about how many investigations actually proceed to an accusation. Are some of them dropped? I assume that they are. And I wonder if we should perhaps focus our efforts on improving the timeline of our investigations, perhaps making sure our investigators are appropriately staffed and that we don't have vacancies and our investigations can be completed in a more timely fashion. Thank you.
Can I respond, Madam Chair? Right now, about 3.8% of all the complaints will lead to an accusation. 3.8% of all complaints will go to a accusation. That's from last year's statistics. It hovers around 3.8 to 4% year on year. And I totally agree that, in the fairness and the details of what we need to put on that profile, as not to, prejudice the doctor, but to inform. The intention is more to inform the public that, a doctor is currently under investigation. If it is that is just raising the hand, they can proceed with caution, because the patient, this isn't to empower them, that they make the final decision. And if the relationship exists, like we have seen time and time again, that when the relationship exists, the people generally will just trust that this doctor is safe for them. And they may not be at risk.
Are there other comments? I need to open it up for public comment as well. Dr. Yip?
Hi. I think the intent is good, but I think we look at the statistic that if, let's say, even 4% or 5% end up by accusation and materialize, means that 95% exposed to the public that I may be a bad doctor, and that actually is a bias. I think we need to improve the resources into speed up the investigation, bring the fact. Let me explain to you, I'm a USC faculty. We actually have USC top-notch urology, well-hearted, talk to me, say, I got a complaint by medical board because my patient complained I did not give him a whole picture about how to treat prostate cancer. In my practice for 40 years, almost every 3 months I have a grievance filed against me because Dr. Yip did not refer me to Cedar Hope, etc., etc. Now, he can easily pick a phone, medical board, Dr. Yip is a bad doctor, he delayed my care. And patient look at it, Dr. Yip is a bad doctor. So I think it's not fair. We already have a problem getting young doctor into practice. They would rather go to one institute, be hired, rather than face different variety of patient. We already have doctors who refuse ER call because they don't want to expose them to people who may not have the resources that optimize the care. So I think we need to be mindful of that too. But I'm with you, public protection is the most important, but I think we have to do it a better way. Thank you.
Thanks, Dr. Yip. Okay.
If we only do 3.8% of all complaints, right? Now we've narrowed down So 3.8% of it leads to an accusation. And that means most of those 3.8% would reach, not, I think less than that will reach HQIU. I'm not sure what those numbers are. I haven't crunched those numbers. I crunch the numbers up to a certain point. The point that I'm saying is this is not prejudicing the 95% of the folks at all. They're not even going to be sifted through. It's only going to be a particular group that HQI has deemed through already. There was a whole front-end process, Central Complaints Unit, and I don't know what, my mind is not even giving me the next unit, but it has gone through the board's initial, checking, is this complaint just a hoax? Is it just a retaliatory or any of that? When it reaches HQIU, generally it's more serious. And there's a certain right that exists when the danger seems to be greater. The responsibility to inform also becomes greater. And that's all. I want to be fair. I want to reach this. I know this is a process, and this is the beginning. I'm open to this process. I've been waiting a long time for this process.
Other comments?
Can I make one more comment on here?
Sure.
I know you are more particularly concerned about 3.8 or 4% who are gone there and do that. But even in that percentage of people, there are many cases who have nothing to do with patient treatment. Somebody has a domestic violence, somebody has with other person, somebody has some other outside like DUI and kind of stuff. So if there is already somebody prosecuted, a criminal court has done that, that is already out in there. But others, I think it will be not fair to put them into this thing until we know that. That's the whole point is.
Yeah, so we're talking a lot about a proposal that we haven't vetted. It's not on paper, so I would just encourage us to think about what information we would need from our staff in order to have a more robust conversation, right? Because I don't think any of us are prepared today we don't have a specific proposal. We don't have a legal analysis. There's a whole lot of things happening. I think we'll go to public comments. Are there any public comments in the room? It's so nice to have a public commenter in the room with us. Welcome back.
The California Medical Association strongly objects to public disclosure of complaint investigation information by the board until the information becomes part of the filed accusation. The board received nearly 10,000 complaints in fiscal year 23-24. However, 97% of cases did not lead to accusation. Thus, the vast majority of complaints do not even meet the threshold for formal accusation, highlighting the unreliability of using complaints as a measure of physician competency or safety. Disclosing unsubstantiated complaints would be both misleading and highly prejudicial. Physicians would face reputational harm because of unverified allegations violating the fundamental principle of due process. Once a complaint is posted publicly, the damage is done, even if the board later determines the complaint was baseless. A physician's reputation could suffer long-term consequences, including loss of patients, employment challenges, and erosion of trust within the medical community. Further, patients deserve accurate, meaningful data, not incomplete or unproven claims. The reality is that anyone can file a complaint, regardless of merit, and many complaints stem from misunderstandings, billing disputes, or dissatisfaction with medical outcomes, rather than true misconduct. If the medical board's website is to be a useful resource for patients, it must provide verified, contextualized information, not unverified or non-investigated complaint information that could mislead the public. Moreover, publicly listing unverified complaints would open the door for abuse of the system. Individuals may issue complaints with the express intent to ruin a reputation because they provide evidence-based but politically sensitive care. These physicians would be at particular risk for being targeted. If these unsubstantiated complaints were made public, it would embolden bad faith actors, amplify misinformation, and discourage physicians from providing or advocating for evidence-based medicine out of fear that their public record could be unfairly tarnished. For these reasons, CMA urges the board to uphold its policy of disclosing only substantiated information through a filed accusation. Thank you.
Thank you for your public comment. Is it related to this? Otherwise, can you hold your comment until we come back? Okay, thanks. Anyone else in the room? All right, let's go to the WebEx, please.
If you'd like to make a public comment on agenda item number 13, please use the hand raising feature. You can type anything into the Q&A window, or if you're in a call-only line, you can press *3. First up here, we have Eric Anders. Eric, you should be receiving that prompt.
Hello?
Good morning, Aaron. We can hear you.
Okay, good. Remember that the California Medical Association does not represent or speak for all doctors in California and is a political entity that often shoots down patient safety measures in favor of protecting their doctor members who have harmed patients. So for all the new members, I've actually been telling this board for almost 10 years that the Contractor State License Board protects consumers better than the medical board does. When someone files a complaint against a contractor who might be remodeling a kitchen or a bathroom, that board is required by law to post to their website that a complaint has been filed against that contractor. In fact, you can actually see the number of complaints that are filed against a contractor. If you go to their website right now and look at license 1035546 for Reliable Roofing, you can see that this contractor has 5 pending complaints. If you click on the complaint number, it gives you a detailed list of the potential violations. That's helpful. Not posting anything at all like you guys do is not helpful. The medical board has readily refused to even pursue this kind of warning to the public. Dr. Helzer, the complaints wouldn't be posted with no investigation because the board needs to also post the potential violations, which would be decided by board staff. Dr. Mahmood, it's not an unreasonable ask, and the legislature has already, in all its wisdom, for years now, posted complaints against contractors. Are you trying to infer that doctors are more special than contractors, that they need to be treated differently than other professions? If fair means fair to everybody, since contractors already have this law, then fair to everybody would be to include doctors who hold our lives in their hands to be held to the same standard. The code is Business and Professions Code 7124.6. In short, and I hope I don't run out of time, it says, A, the registrar shall make available to members of the public the date, nature, and status of all complaints on file against a licensee that do either of the following. 1, have been referred for accusation. 2, have been referred for investigation after a determination by the board enforcement staff that a probable violation has occurred and have been reviewed by a supervisor and regard allegations that, if proven, would present a risk of harm to the public and would be appropriate for suspension or revocation of the contractor's
30
license
seconds remain.
or criminal prosecution. Oh, please give me a few seconds more. B, the board shall create a disclaimer that shall accompany the disclosure of a complaint that shall state that the complaint is an allegation. The disclaimer may also contain any other information the board determines would be relevant to a person evaluating the complaint. To think that you'd even have to think about this, whether consumers should be informed that a doctor has complaints, is unconscionable. We're asking you to put this before the legislature, not make it a law overnight. Let the legislature consider it. Let the public speak to the legislature. Let doctors speak. And then let the legislature decide. I have more to say, but you're cutting me off. I had an actual case that would prove a Dr. Popkin. Look up Dr. Popkin.
Thank you very much for your public comment. Next up here, we have Marion Hollingsworth. Should be receiving that prompt.
You hear me?
We can, Marion. Please go
Okay,
ahead.
thank you. Good morning, I'm Marion Hollingsworth, patient safety advocate. I can't tell you how strongly I believe that the medical board should follow Mr. Watkins' advice to have some type of warning or indication that a doctor is under investigation on his profile page. I have firsthand experience with this, so I know the outrage and betrayal the public feels if they have been duped into thinking a doctor is safe. When I first became an advocate after my father's death, I learned how to look up doctors on your website and began looking up all the doctors every family member and I had been to over the years. And I was shocked to learn that a gastroenterologist I had been referred to for a local routine colonoscopy just recently had been given 7 years of probation and a suspension for years of addiction and drugs and alcohol abuse that you knew about because he failed your own diversion program. But you didn't even investigate this doctor until he went after a patient with a hatchet in a drunken rage. Only then did you act, but not for 3 years, but not in time for me to know before my procedure. It took you some 3 years to investigate him, leaving consumers totally in the dark about this doctor's history. You failed to protect me in this case. I can't tell you how betrayed I felt that you knew this doctor was a danger, but kept quiet out of respect for this addict. Who knew if someone else was harmed by this guy? It's unconscionable that the DCA is more concerned about someone getting a bad kitchen or bathroom job done by a lousy contractor than you, the medical board, have no qualms about a dangerous doctor or sexual predator treating you or your loved ones. It would be considered laughable if it wasn't so sad that you board members can look up a doctor's complaint history. Yes, you can. Denise Pines told a group of us advocates while she was on the board and told us that you folks have this information at your fingertips for your own use. She felt grateful that she could check into her father's doctor while he was in the hospital and feel assured that he was okay. And we thought that would be nice for all of us to have. So you board members can thoroughly check out your doctors using all the information you have access to, while the rest of us are left completely in the dark. As Mr. Watkins indicated, at least one patient was, I forgot to mention this, Dr. Carlos Chacon killed a patient and not calling 911, allowed an unlicensed tech to finish the surgery, and there was nothing up
30
for
seconds
3
remaining.
years. One patient was actually harmed by that. The Contractors Licensing Board has this notice on a contractor's page, so consumers don't get ripped off. It's pathetic that the DCA is more concerned about a poor kitchen job than a dangerous doctor delivering a baby or having open heart surgery. Your job is to protect the public. Do your job, and please don't take 3 years to do your job. Thank you.
Sean, before we move to the next commenter, I need to provide a response to some misinformation that was just provided by that commenter. No board member has any access to complaint information as that complaint is being processed. In fact, we're expressly prohibited from being involved in that process at all. There's no system that any of us can access. There is no system that any of us have accessed. So I'm not sure what a previous board member would have been talking about, but that information is incorrect, it's false, and inaccurate. Next public commenter, please.
Next request here is from Wendy Connect. You should be receiving that prompt on your end. Good morning, Wendy.
Hi, my name's Wendy Connect, and I just want to say that if the medical board is truly looking to put public safety first, then TJ's legislation to allow the public to see that an investigation is in process should be an absolute no-brainer. The lack of transparency that exists in the investigation process currently causes harm to patients in so many different ways. I can tell you from my firsthand experience, although the average investigation takes 3 years, the investigation of my surgeon took 6 years, during which time countless other people were harmed by this doctor. Have these people been able to access the simple information that the doctor was under investigation, at least these people would have had the tools to do that, or the incentive to do their own research to make an informed decision. You have to give them a little credit to do their own research. Maybe a few of those people could have avoided severe harm, especially during one of these patients actually died. Having this information could have spared lives and at the very least prevented traumatic injury and deformity to others. Think of the misery and anguish that could have been spared. It's only fair and only right to give the public, whom you are charged to protect, a little bit of knowledge so they can do their research if they wish. At the very least, the medical board, should be as transparent as the contractors board, who discloses this vital information. Thank you.
Thank you for your public comment. Next up here is Angel Outreach. You should be receiving that prompt.
Can you hear me okay?
We can. Please go ahead.
Yes, thank you. So we are also a patient advocate group, but we really are a group that cares about resolution, peace between the providers, justice for the patients. And so in this gray area of mediation, we are very concerned that things that are proposed, in this case, of course, are not being backed up by data. So in the world of healthcare, patient care, medications, treatment, it's very difficult to advocate for rules in which there is no backup of data. Where's the data to show that patients who are under investigation, who are not found guilty, who are in the beginning stages of a patient complaint, is guilty? I mean, it's as if we are going up to every Hispanic who cannot speak English and deport them. It's just illogical and inhumane. And again, we are very concerned about rules and ordinances and conclusions made by the medical board that are not backed up from scientific data. I mean, how often do we have experts come in and show data charts and standard deviations and population sizes and conclusions backed up with data? Here, it's almost as if it's kind of random, based on nothing more than the logic of an attorney, and that is not backed up by data. So I'm very concerned of its implication across the U.S. As we turn to President Trump and his investigations. Thank you.
Thank you for your public comment. Next here we have Michelle. You should be receiving that prompt on your end. Morning, Michelle.
Morning, I'm Michelle Montserrat Ramos. As this board knows, I've always advocated for more transparency on the physician profile. I've advocated for more transparency with your meetings, and that's why this board had teleconferencing and webcasting in place and was ready to respond during the pandemic to having to provide a meeting on WebEx. Yesterday, while I was in this meeting and also in the osteopathic medical board meeting, I received 2 requests from members of the public asking for help for searching for background information on their physicians. They needed this information before going to their first appointment. I couldn't respond to them to tell them to just go to the Mega Board website because much of the information they need is not there. I have to use several mechanisms in order to adequately provide this information to the public. I believe it is important to provide more information on the physician profile. We have had families who have come to the board with death complaints who had no idea that other families in their community had complaints on file and were also under investigation. The families felt alone. They counted on the board to evaluate and monitor the licensees. In some of these situations, the licensee in question had a 32-year history of harm. It would have been helpful for these families to have this information that their physician's license was under investigation. In all the years that I've had the public come to me with their complaints, and when many of them, including my own death complaint, not granted to move forward in the enforcement process, does not necessarily indicate that those deaths or lifelong harm were not due to extreme departures from the standard of care. We all have been working on trying to improve this system, to fix some of the gaps in the system, but there are many more to fix. All the public is asking is for more information to protect their families. If we want to catch actions early, then we should want to do the same for our families. I hope that the board will seriously take this proposal under consideration and continue the conversation. Thank you.
Thank you for your public comment. Just a reminder, if anyone would like to make a public comment on agenda item 13 that hasn't already, please use the hand raising feature. Type something in that Q&A window, or if you're in a call-only line, you can press *3 to toggle raising your hand. Next up here, we have a call-in user from the 404 area code. You should be able to press *6 now to unmute your line.
Good afternoon. This is Charles Johnson. Can everybody hear me?
We can. Please go ahead.
Thank you. So, I want to express my clear, unconditional support for the measure and the action presented by T.J. Watkins. The members of this board are familiar with my advocacy and support for greater transparency of the medical board over the past 7 years after my wife, Kira Johnson, died after what was supposed to be a routine scheduled C-section. And here's what it comes down to. The public is simply asking for transparency and accountability. It's all we've ever wanted. It's for the opportunity for the citizens of California to have the access readily available to them to make an educated, informed decision about who they trust with the people in their lives that are most precious. This is a very reasonable request. This is a very reasonable measure, and members of the medical board and members of the medical community should be in full support resoundingly of this measure, because the ability for providers to be held accountable and transparent for their actions will actually be the best thing for the doctors that are doing the right things by their patients. My question for every member of this board: I am now a widower raising an 8-year-old and a 10-year-old who will never know the love, support, and affection of their mother, simply because this medical board failed to do its job in protecting us along with thousands of citizens. And my question for you all is, how many more citizens of California have to be maimed, injured, harmed, sexually assaulted before you take simple action? And I pray that nobody on this board ever has to sit in this seat begging and pleading simply for transparency and accountability. It's too late for us. The people, the voices that you've heard from, it's too late. But it's not too late for the next family. Please step up, support this action resoundingly. That's what we're asking. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much for your public comment. This time I don't see any additional requests.
Okay, thank you. We'll bring it back to the hearing room. Any takers for public comment in the hearing room? Right, seeing none, we'll bring it back to the board. I guess we'll entertain a motion potentially, but I guess I'd like to make a suggestion, which is that we ask our staff to interact with their peers at the Contractor State License Board and understand how this law that is cited in Mr. Watkins' materials and that has been referenced by the public commenters is implemented and what it means. I think we've heard a lot about what we think it means, and we can read the text, and that leaves, I read it before the meeting. It leaves a lot of questions in my mind about what it actually means. So I'd like, as a recommendation, potentially a next step to be that we direct our staff to go find out what that law is all about from the Contractor State License Board perspective, so that we make sure we have accurate information about what is posted on their website. Okay.
Yeah.
So Dr. Mahmood, Ms. Remke, Dr.
Madam
Sai.
President, I have a little concern and hesitation on going on a carpenter and plumbing board and comparing over here. I know everybody's responsible the same. I think we need to have logical, fair, transparent system. and see how many complaints are there, what happens, what will the implication, just staying in this board. If you want to compare it, go to the osteopathy board, go to any other medical board. Comparing with those board and going into that kind of fight is very complicated and useless. And I'm saying this very openly, frankly. People might out there not like this, but I think we should look at the dynamics right here, patient care, patient safety, and responsibility of the board. So I would not go to that extent, at least in my opinion. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Remke, and then we'll go over here.
Well, just a similar concern. I don't think that we should use a contractor's licensing statute as a comparison. Perhaps other medical boards in other states, what do they do? It seems to me more appropriate, apples to apples, to see what we're dealing with because of all the concerns that are going to continue to be raised if we go forward with this for doctors. Let's look at what other states do.
And maybe for some clarification about my thinking on that point as well, I do believe there's a misunderstanding about what the Contractor State Licensing Board is actually doing, and having some information about what they actually are doing might help the public better understand what's being posted on their website, might help us better understand, because I don't think it's a valid comparison right now. I think there's been a suggestion made that when complaints are filed, they're automatically posted on the Contractor State Licensing Board website. That's not actually the case, I believe, in practice, but I'd like that to be verified rather than that just to be my personal understanding. Dr. Tsai?
I think that's the general sentiment of the board, is that we don't have enough information. I think that's why I agree with the president's suggestion that we direct the board to get more information. I think the overall goal is a noble one. You know, as Confucius says, the journey of 1,000 miles begins with the first step. And I think we need to take that first step in getting more information. So I move to direct the board, as you suggested, to get more information and looking at other jurisdictions, other boards, to give us more information so that we can make an informed consent decision on this.
Second.
All right, thank you. We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Oh, sorry, Dr. Yip.
I agree all the comments. Just to one comment to do basic research is look at the staff, look at from the day someone filed complaint to the day the acquisition. In between, is there room we can do something? Put the resources there. But I agree, we should look forward, open the door, but evidence-based. Thank you.
Yeah, and just I want to. I just want to reiterate what Dr. Yip just said. I think that's really important as we drill down and we look at, and to pick up from what Dr. Mahmood said, doctors are not deities. Doctors can get DUIs. Doctors can be accused for domestic violence. We know all of that. That is, we're humans, and we're taking care of humans. Therefore, I concur with the issue. This is not fixing a bathroom sink or putting linoleum on a floor. These are people. In the world of medicine, we do deep dives of root cause analysis, and these things take a long time within our own buildings, in our hospitals, in our surgery centers. And unfortunately, everybody on this board will die. We don't know how and we don't know when, but we do know that not everybody's going to die at the hands of a bad practitioner. So I do want us to consider this, that this is not, and I agree with our president to look at it, and I understand her thinking. But I also think as we look through the process, so this is about process now, where would be the logical place to provide a alert or notification? Because we also have a judicial system that has to be fair. I think we've heard it resoundingly. We cannot make inferences and decide who we think is a person that is most likely the perpetrator in some crime or event. So I accept the motion as stated.
All right, thank you. Any further comments before I ask Ms. Strother to call the roll? Do the roll call vote, not call the roll. I've done that a couple times now. All right, Ms. Strother, please perform the roll call vote. Sorry, we're voting on a motion by Dr. Tsai to get some more information about, I think, what the Contractor State Licensing Board does and potentially what other jurisdictions do.
Madam President, may I ask a friendly amendment to that? Could we also put in there what Dr. Yip's idea and ours is to also do the drill down on where in the process that we have from the time a complaint is filed to when would be a logical suggestion, perhaps. Not because I totally disagree that every complaint should be posted, but where in the process might that be legally possible, because we're not in this country, we're innocent until proven guilty. So
I second that friendly
Okay, fair enough.
amendment.
Okay, let's do the roll call vote on that motion.
Dr. Balat,
yes.
Ms. Chung,
Yes.
Dr. Helzer,
Yes.
Ms. Mitchell,
Yes.
Dr. Mahmood,
Yes.
Ms. Remke,
Yes.
Ms. Torres,
Yes.
Dr. Sai,
Yes.
Mr. Watkins, Dr. Yip,
Yes.
Ms. Lawson.
Yes. Okay. Moving on to my favorite part of every meeting. Agenda item 14. Sorry, I should have said the motion carries. Moving on to agenda item 14, future agenda items. We really are going to be done a long time before 3 p.m., I think. Do any members have suggestions for future agenda items?
Just one.
Mr. Watkins?
Yeah, I just want to ask what I asked at the last meeting, anytime during the year, just to have face-to-face stakeholder meeting.
Okay, thank you. Any other agenda items?
I think we have talked this about, if it's not in the making right now, role of AI in medicine, and actually not just 1 hour. I think a little more extensive, because this is getting on everybody's head, and we should get like 2 or 3 experts on different things. Maybe even, Madam President, if you put up to a couple of people who set up the topics and questions before they put just agenda item, that these are the things we want to address.
Sounds good, thank you.
Madam
Other
President.
topic, Dr. Yip?
I suggest we invite speaker expert to talk on the GLP, the Ozempic, etc., because it's so widely used, and sometimes the border is blurred. What is indicated was not, and it potentially it may expose to certain kind of discipline in the future that a patient getting properly advice and whether they would should properly. There's a lot of patients may get like so-called what's it called? Not labeled or not off-labeled use. Is now on the news. It may treat alcoholism, may treat smoking and weight loss. So I think we need to learn about that. Thank you.
Thank you. Other topics? Okay, let's, any commenters in the room for future agenda items? Okay, Sean, are there any online?
If you wish to make a public comment on this agenda item, please do so by raising your hand in WebEx, typing anything in that Q&A window, or pressing *3 if you're in a call-in-only line. First up here, we have Marion Hollingsworth. Marion, you should be receiving that prompt.
Okay, can you hear me?
We can. Please go ahead.
Okay. Good morning. Still, this is Marion Hollingsworth, Patient Safety Advocate. I would like to have an agenda item detailing what board members are allowed in terms of information about doctors under investigation, since it's obviously had different interpretations. One of your own board presidents, Denise Pines, told advocates that she had access to doctor complaint information. She was very specific and felt grateful that she had the privilege to get that information about her father's doctor. I don't appreciate being called a liar when I and other advocates know what she told us and have commented on this issue about free access to information among ourselves since then. This board should be more transparent with the public. I'm not lying about what I was told. Was Denise Pines lying, or at least misleading advocates about the power of board members and the access to information they have? Please clarify this with an agenda item. I would also like an agenda item on the relationship this board has with the CMA. Since Mr. Watkins' specific request for notification was not detailed on agenda item 13, who on this board tipped off the CMA so they would have time to prepare a response? Your own licensing director and board management had a nice 3-day vacation with the CMA at their last House of Delegates meeting, as was mentioned yesterday at the board meeting, and is in 6B under the materials if you care to look for that. And they plan to return again. It was such a good time. California California consumers need to know where the board's allegiance lies, please have an agenda item to inform us of this relationship, including how many former CMA presidents and members have served on this board and how many are currently on this board. Finally, I support Mr. Watkins' request for another stakeholder meeting. Thank you.
Thank you for your public comment.
Thank you. Again, just a point of factual clarification. The materials with respect to Mr. Watkins' proposal are included in our packet on page BRD 13-3. They've been included on the website. They were included in the packet of materials that was circulated to everyone here, and they've been available to the public on the outside table in the board hearing room as well. Next public commenter.
Next up here we have Monty Goddard. Monty should be receiving a prompt.
Thank President Lawson for the suggestion that staff and Dr. Thorpe reconvene the task force that updated the opioid prescribing guidelines. I think that's an awesome step. So I won't ask for that specifically to be on a future agenda item, but I would like to remind the board that I highly recommend they schedule a presentation, possibly with the same presenters who presented to the Board of Pharmacy back in October, the impact on the wholesalers of controls of all medications, but specifically controlled substances to pharmacy shelves. I think that's something that needs to see the light of day, and I think you guys could shine the light of day on it. So thank you very much.
Thank you for your public comment. Next here we have Angel Outreach. Should be receiving that prompt. Angel Outreach, looks like you just lowered. There we go.
Yes, thank you. We would like to see an agenda item in regards to mediation for some boards. There's a mediation program that is available, optional, mandatory. I mean, there's many different ways of approaching a mediation program in which a provider and the patient can meet together, and there would be rules and that sort of thing. And I'm sure that within the local court system, it must be utilized in some fashion. In which case, I know in the past, the board had mentioned a possible interest in this. So I just wanted to bring it up again and possibly have the board follow through in presenting this topic. Thank you.
Thank you for your public comment. Just a reminder, anyone who would like to make a public comment here, you can do so by using the hand-raising feature, typing anything in that Q&A window, or pressing *3 if you're on a call-and-only line. Last request I see in queue right now is Eric Andrus. Eric, you should be receiving that prompt.
Christina, you seem to want to be picking on poor Marion Hollingsworth, patient safety advocate today. You've twice now called her out as a liar. I'm coming to her defense now on this again because when the materials were originally posted, TJ's response was not included in that. See, look, she's already pushing her button to call me out. Look at her. Look at her. Just look at what she's doing. She is on a mission today to punish people and to be punitive. That is not your job, Christina, as the board president. It's unprofessional and you need to stop. I'm going to be filing a complaint against you with DCA because you're being
future agenda item, Eric?
My future agenda item is to please show us the rules and roles that the president of the board should have, which probably doesn't include calling members of the public liars. Thank you.
Mr. Watkins, could you just, for purposes of having a clear record, let the board know when you provided the materials to us?
Yes, I provided it on Monday. It was posted in that in the board pack.
You provided it on Monday of this week, and it was uploaded, I believe,
Tuesday.
the same day.
Oh, the same day.
And was available to the public at the
Yeah.
exact same time it was available to board members.
Yeah, the previous versions did not include that. That was posted, but on Monday evening it was all in the board pack.
And that's when you
That's gone.
provided it to all of us.
Yes,
None of
the
us
da-
had that before that.
Absolutely.
Correct. All right. Any more public comment?
No additional requests at this time.
All right, thank you. Anyone else in the room? Last call for future agenda items. Seeing none, our next item is adjournment. Thank you, everyone, for participating in the February Medical Board meeting. The board's next quarterly board meeting is on May 15th through 16th, 2025. There being no further business, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you all.
I figured it is better than Chilla.